first of all, tell me, where are you from? Are you from Fritch originally, or?
No, I'm originally from Guyman, Oklahoma,
Okay.
where I was born and raised, and went in the service there. But I went back for a short while after I got out of the service. But you know, I've liked Texas ever since I got here. And I was born in Texas County, Oklahoma. I always tell everybody they misplaced me. You know, I should have been in Texas. Just some of that nonsense in life. But
Right.
But I've loved Texas. We've been here for, oh golly, 35 years or something like that.
Okay.
36.
Okay.
More than half my lifetime anyway.
Yeah. What brought you to Fritch?
Well, mainly it's because I was deathly ill, and I was getting closer to the VA hospital. And my wife had a sister that lived here.
Okay.
And fortunately, I survived the issue after about 8 years of it. Had blood poisoning that reoccurring from injuries, and you know, had operations on it to get it repaired. And but anyway, got blood poisoning in it, and like I said, it just off and on for 8 years.
Yeah.
And finally, it just, you know, got so bad that I thought I was gonna die. My wife knew I was gonna die, and so we had some missionaries come in, minister a priesthood blessing, and went to the hospital. And a short time after that, well, got over it.
Okay. So you said you went into the service from Guyman. So you joined, or were you drafted?
Well, I had my draft notice, and I went down and signed up for the Marine Corps, and wound up not getting in the Corps. So your 30 days run out. But yeah, I went through Amarillo Induction, you know, Center here, 1967.
Okay. How old were you then?
I was just, well, 19.
So just out of high school then?
A little bit, yeah. I'd been working for a little while. And of course, I'd quit high school, though, however.
Oh.
Got a GED later on. And the funny thing is, what I tell them now is that Oklahoma finally opened up to the veterans that had a GED equivalency, and you could get your high school diploma. So I got my high school diploma in 2006, and my third granddaughter graduated kindergarten that year. So it was, you know, but that was something that, you know, I'd always felt that I shouldn't have done that. You know, it's one of those things, and finally got a way to amend it to a degree, so I did. But
that's great. So you were a 19-year-old kid joining what ultimately was the Army.
Greatest Army in the world
Yeah.
at that time.
Okay. And where'd you go from there?
I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Okay. Just
down
heard
there.
about Fort Polk.
Yeah, it was, went through basic training, and then I went through AIT there also, which was infantry training. And they had what they called Tigerland. They had 3 Tigerlands in different forts, but I'd always heard that Polk was the worst one, and then they had Leonard Wood, which it was, you know, pretty rough going too, I guess, from what I heard. But
What?
it was good training for where we was going, though.
So describe Tigerland for me.
Tigerland was an infantry training unit, and you know, teach you all the stuff that you don't want to know. We trained with from the .45 caliber handgun to M14, M16, bazooka. The law, they call it the law. It's M72 grenade launcher type. I mean, but you know, a lot of light weapons is what it amounts to. Is, you know, for your light weapons infantry, up to a 50 caliber, 60 caliber machine guns. You know, we was all schooled in all that, able to take them apart, put them back together, service them, you know, in the field, and then like this one thing, it's like I tell my kids, there's times, you know, you're in a position to learn things. I said, whether you want to learn it or not, go ahead and learn it. And I remember learning the night walk. And what that amounts to is when you're in like the jungles or somewhere, you know, where it's dark, you can't see. And I've been in places so dark I couldn't see my hand, put it on my nose. But what you do is stick your arm out, easy like, and what you do is take it up above your head. But you'll put your weapon about an inch behind your finger. And that's what you do. And you go all the way across, and you keep on coming until you go all the way to the ground. Make sure there's no booby traps. Then you take one step. Then you start it all over again. And you do that to get through the jungles. Well, I never had to use that, fortunately, but I knew how to do it if I needed to. And, you know, like I say, the different trainings in, you know, in your infantry is a lot different than most of your other areas.
Right.
You know, artillery or whatever, you know, we had, you know, once we got to Vietnam, got there in early '68, and during the Tet Offensive, in our little unit, I was with the 5th Infantry Regiment, and we was attached to the 25th Infantry Division.
Where were you at?
We was based out of Cu Chi, South Vietnam,
Okay.
and we worked what they called the Iron Triangle, and from Cu Chi to Bien Hoa to Saigon, the old French fort, the rubber plantation. But our unit was, if we wasn't fighting, we was looking for one, and we normally found it pretty quick. So we've got, you know, they're just a lot of good guys and a lot of good people that, you know, that fought that.
Yeah.
And they helped, you know, the Vietnamese people. They worked with them, tried to share all the knowledge that they had. You know, we did as with like come in and have airstrikes, and we'd be there, you know, waiting for the airstrikes. And once they go over, then we go in. But we'd be so close that one of those bombs went off that our fatigues would just sit there and just flap on us, you know. And then we'd go in, and of course there was always BC or whatever in there though too. That they had their hidey holes, and that ground was clay type, and you know it's not like, you know, the bombings you see in World War II movies and stuff. You know, don't blow big old holes there, you know, because it doesn't blow them that deep because of the clay. And they had hospitals and classrooms and everything underground.
And those tunnels.
They had the tunnels from Cambodia plumb to Saigon, all through the Cu Chi area, you know, and they have what they call spider holes, and they dig a hole and they hide down in there, you know, then you come through and they'll pop up a little bit, you know, pop off one or two and drop back down. You can't find them, you know, unless you happen to see something moving, you know, at the time that they pop up. And it's a different, you know.
Well, what was your first day like in Vietnam when you got there?
It was hot. I remember stepping off that plane, and it was a big plane. I don't know, it had the aisles down the middle, 2 aisles down here, 2 theaters in it. But I stepped off that plane, and I just about went to my knees. It was so hot, from air conditioned to 118, 20 degrees. Well, we got there, this was at Bien Hoa, and went in, you know, got checked in and all that. Then they sent us, you know, on to Bien Hoa, where we got our weapons, you know, zeroed them in. And then a few days later, we was assigned, you know, to a division and then to a unit. And I was fortunate. I was there at base camp, and a couple of guys come along for our unit that you know, with the 5th I got with. There's 2 guys that we got to visiting, and anyway, I liked them guys right off. You know, they just good people, and they asked me if I'd been assigned yet, and I said no, and they said, well, we get you in our unit, and they did, and I was real fortunate to get in that unit, I felt like, and anyway, one of them boys, though, later on, we'd been fighting from Saigon over back to the west, to Tay Dinh province, and
we unclipped it. That's all right.
yeah, I don't know.
You're a hand talker, Myron.
Yes, I know it. I'll try to quit that. It don't work.
I have to do that too.
Yeah, I got that from them uncles of mine, them old farmers. You go down here, you know, so far, you go over there. You look down here, look over there.
Mm-hmm.
It may not settle in.
So we notice you do most of it with your left
Try to. No
You're-
promises.
You're fine. So tell me again about this one fellow that you were talking
Yeah,
about.
there was two of them, and that one was Don Fuller, in which he's still alive, and I've got to visit with him. And matter of fact, just last month we was out in Albuquerque with our unit reunion, and he and I and a couple of other guys went up in a hot air balloon and done other things while we was there. But he was our driver of our APC, Armored Personnel Carrier, and we'd ride, get someplace fast, and we'd get off and make our sweeps or whatever, But he's also the one that was an instrument for the Lord to come and save my bacon, on one particular night. And but the other one his name was Colombo Field del Torzo. He is from New York. He's an Italian, just a super good guy. I mean, this guy was a wonderful person. He was a little older. He was like 23. He was like an old man in Vietnam, but he was a good guy. And anyway, he wound up getting killed in September of '68. And by then, I had been wounded and sent home. But we was on a move, though. Like I said, we'd been fighting over the outskirts of Saigon, and we come back through and run into resistance, and we'd been fighting. And therefore, it was like 4 days we went without sleep, and just blink your eyes, and whatever time it took to do that, that's when you slept, for just a second, whatever. But finally, we got a reprieve and had some days off, got a little rest, and then me and 4 other guys was out on what they call a COP, a combat outpost. It's the observation, give early warning to the main body. And I went out and done a recon on the area, and there was a big irrigation ditch out to the west of us. And there was a big dike. Their fields are made up with dikes, and this was a bigger dike. It was about 3 foot taller, a little taller. And anyway, I went out there and looked it over, and I'd come back and I'd called our CO and told him that there was an irrigation ditch out there that was big enough for them to move a regiment in on us, or a division even. And that's all it was up to him to do whatever he wanted to do then. Well, sure enough, that night they used that irrigation ditch and they moved in on us. And anyway, I was awake like I was supposed to be and had 4 men with me. They was asleep. And but one of the PCs had drove over the big dike down there, not quite a half a block from our position. And they'd come up on the far side of that dike, and then they come through. Well, I could see their silhouettes, and they had their intervals. And, I mean, these guys was fighting people. They was. There's, no 2 ways around it. But anyway, I'd grab my M16, put it up on full automatic, and poke this one guy beside me, and I pointed. He took off, which, that's what we're supposed to do, is pull back. But I had 3 other men out there asleep, and they was a little bit farther over. And I was afraid, if I started moving, they'd see me, and then, we'd be in trouble. So I wound up just opening up, and when I did, the whole area was, come alive. I mean, it just, like they say, all hell broke loose. And there was mortars, RPGs, automatic weapons, machine guns going off, all everywhere. And then one of our APCs got hit. It was a buddy of mine that me and him was really close to. Anyway, Don, our driver, went over and pulled him out, which I didn't know this till later, but Manuel lost his right leg and his right hand and part of his right arm. And so after I'd opened up, the other guys, they woke up, and we had 2 guys that was from another squad, and we just met them that day, and just knew their nicknames, Didn't know who, their names. That's the way it was. But anyway, through all the fighting, then I was trying to get Brock, this other buddy of mine, to set the claymores off, because they was sitting right on top of the claymore mines. And, of course, it was loud. He couldn't hear, and I was screaming as loud as I could, trying to get him to understand here. But, we was in a hot confrontation there, and he never did set the claymores off. Well, I got hit with a broken leg, and I knew my leg was broke. but I didn't know I'd been hit other places, you know, and had other broken, you know, legs and feet, and ankle and stuff. And anyway, one of them other guys, little Hank, he come back and was checking on me. I said, get them guys and get the hell out of here. I said, I'll give you fire support. But they seen little Hank move and they shot and killed little Hank. And that was back whenever all those, oh, what they call that? But anyway, those snap packs or whatever, the little snacks. But anyway, I'd heard about them before I went overseas, but his parents had sent him some, and he had shared them with us that day, and we got basically acquainted. Well, it wound up that little Hank and Cub both got killed. Rock and I got out because I'd called the CO again and told him, our situation, and I knew that he wasn't going to send anybody out. He's got 4 men down. He's not going to send 6 men out there to get you out, and I knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't blame him either. But after a while, it was getting pretty hot and heavy, and them bullets hitting close enough I could reach out and get them, which I'd already said in my prayers, told the Lord I was fine with whatever he decided, but I would rather live through this night. And so I called Don at RPC with our radio, told him our situation. Of course, higher up told him, don't go, but that's the way our squad was, If one's down, we're all down. That's the way we felt. And, the higher ups, they could do whatever they want to do, but we're going to take care of each other. And that's what they did. They come out. I told them, check little Hank, and they said he's dead. I said, check him again. I said, he's dead, Pete. So I said, okay, let's go. So then they rolled me over on a stretcher and took me in behind the PCs and the tanks, and so laid there for I don't know how long, and I've been bleeding pretty good for a while, and they finally got the Hueys in for medevac, and then we got into Cu Chi for the 44th medevac, and anyway, Rock was down there a couple of tables from me, and they cut my clothes off, and had holes in me, blood running places. I knew this leg was broke. And then I noticed my foot was, it had holes in it too, and then I had shrapnel wounds as well. Matter of fact, I still got one piece of shrapnel in one of my toes. But anyway, I was still eating on Rock for not setting the claymores off. Why didn't you set them off? I want to get up and punch him. But anyway, he done what he had to do, and that's the way it was. But I didn't know at that time that Manuel, that lost his leg and his arm, was over in the same area, and he heard us, talking, but I didn't know he was there. Yeah. And then later on, talking to Don, well, Don he caught up with Manuel, after things settled down and the unit come back into base camp. And anyway, Manuel looked up at him and said, why did you do it? That's what Don done. That's what we all done. Manuel should have known that. But, he felt like he wasn't a whole man, with his leg and hand gone. And, it really bothered Don for a long time. And, but Manuel got over it, and we've seen him, and he lives up in Greeley, Colorado, and we've been up, visited with him, stayed with him, and he's been down here, stayed with us, and we've been to unit reunions together, and had a lot of good times though too after the fact.
So he wasn't sure you should have saved him, huh?
No, he felt like should have let him die,
Right.
And I thought how sad that is, The Lord tells you how precious life is, and you're supposed to hold on to it, with all your might. The way I felt about it, the way I was raised. You don't give it up that easy. Wait till the Lord comes and asks for it. Then you can give it up. But anyway, he'd got over that part of it, though, and he's had a good life. He raised children and played pool, was an amateur pool player for a lot of years, and go to Las Vegas and tournaments and done a lot. And but the first time I seen him was out in Tucson in 2004, I think it was, since 1968. And then I wrote to Don. We'd stayed correspondence for a while. Then he got home, he got married, had a daughter. Then a little while after that, well, correspondence quit, you know, get busy with family and whatnot. And then it was in about 2003 or 4, right before that. Well, it was 3 because we had a unit reunion out in Hampton, Virginia. And I didn't get to make that one because we was out in Alabama going there, but then that's when the hurricanes come in. I think that was in somewhere along there, I forget what year it was. But anyway, we just made a vacation out of it. Well, Don was there, and he was the guy I was wanting to see. And so anyway, later on, a few years down the trail, well, he made one in Nashville. He's from Michigan, and he made the unit reunion there. And it just so happened that it was 42 years to the day that he had come out and pulled us out of that hot spot. I thought, well, you know, that's kind of befitting, you know.
Yeah.
I love these guys. But like I said, this last month we was out in Albuquerque and just had a lot of good times. And we do that with the unit reunions, which is good for us, it's healthy for us. And that's the best thing, you know, a combat veteran can do is a visit with these buddies, you know, and share those things. And you need to share them with your kids and with your family, but that's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, I
You
can
know,
imagine.
The younger minds, you know, it's hard for them to perceive what you're doing. And then you come home, you know, and you got PTSD, you don't even know what it is. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. I knew I was different, didn't know what it was. It wasn't a good different either. I didn't like that. But
How did it show up for you?
through hostilities and stuff, and I know that I'd get mad at my wife, just, you know, pop, you know, just, she could not do anything, say something, or even, you know, if I thought she was thinking something, you know, it'd pop off, and different things would trigger that. But she is a stout gal, and the love that the Lord, you know, shared with us kept us through it, because without that, and without the Lord's help, we'd have been divorced, no telling where, but, you know, I'd have been anyway. But she stuck through me with all that stuff, and I'm just, you know, thankful.
Is that the battle then that resulted in the Purple Heart that you got
Yes.
a pin for?
Yeah. Yeah, that. I remember walking into a store one time and somebody had seen it on my cap, and they said, "Oh, they give you a Purple Heart, did they?" I said, "No." I said, "I earned it the hard way." But you know, a lot of boys did. You know, that's not what we was after. You know, any of that prestige or whatever, you know, comes with medals. Like with Don, he's got Silver Star, Bronze Stars, you know, several of them. But he wasn't, you know, he didn't do any of that stuff for that. He done it because of his buddies, for the love for his fellow man.
I can't imagine the chaos of that.
It is that,
Battle.
you know, there in your young mind, you know, and all of a sudden you see all these things. You know, I mean, I've seen dead people before, but, you know, I didn't see them blowed up. I've seen a few in car wrecks, but I remember shortly before that was there in Saigon, and we'd run up to give fire support. We had some of the squad pinned, not our squad, but another squad pinned down, and so they called our squad to go in and help them out. Well, we got up, you know, closer, and we fanned out, and I was in this alleyway and trying to find, you know, where these guys were shooting from. Being a plainsman, I figured I could spot them quicker than them other boys could, you know, but I couldn't find them. And anyway, pretty soon I hear our APC fire up. Don's driving, Mike's on the 50 caliber, and you know, the houses and buildings and stuff are on fire. He drives that right through all that fire and stuff, gets that 50 caliber up, take care of the problem up there. The medics get in, get them guys out. They come back down through the alley where I'm at, and I happened to look up, and they had a couple of them. One guy on a stretcher, another guy was wounded, but he was still able to get along, you know, ambulatory. And but when that guy went by, well, he said, "I guess by God I'll be going home now." And both his legs was blowed off from his knees down, you know. And I thought he must have been a short timer, you know. Normally, you know, them other guys, they wouldn't have even, you know, thought that, I don't believe. If you're there, you know, a short time, you know, you're still trying to get orientated, figure out how to stay alive. But But there was a lot of that, you know, and that's what you're there for. You're a warrior, and you're there for the freedoms that, you know, God give us. And the American soldier is always, you know, kept alive for us. And that's the way we felt then, you know. And I'd had uncles in a lot of the wars, you know, going back, family and, you know, Civil War. And I haven't tracked back to the Revolutionary War yet, but I'm sure we had some there too.
Did you understand what people were protesting back here about?
I never understood why they, you know, at that time, why they would protest the soldiers. You know, they would point the finger at us. We done our job. We done our job because the people in Washington could not do their job. And they sent us there. So we took care of it. And we did take care of it. And we beat them in '68 at the Tet Offensive. And General Jip even said, if you guys had held on for 2 more days, we'd have quit. We was ready to quit. But because of our news media and our politicians, and there's proven facts now, you know, that you can go back and tie into, that that's exactly what happened to us. And then later on in life, and I've got the one of our veterans, for the Vietnam Veterans of America, that McNamara, have you heard anything about that yet?
Which thing?
But General McNamara, he was, you know, in charge of some of that stuff during the time. But he called us McNamara's morons. That's what we was called, because we was soldiers doing the job that our leadership sent us out to do, and we was doing it better than what they thought we was going to. And that was a big money and political war. And there's no 2 ways around it to any combat soldier out of Vietnam. They know that.
How were you treated when you got home?
Well, I come in on a medevac, so I didn't see the public like a lot of them did. But I've had buddies that did come through, and they told me how they was treated. And I thought, you know, that's just shameful, you know. The American people ought to be ashamed of themselves. Like it tells you in the scriptures, you know, your warriors, you always take care of your warriors. You don't treat them like that. But you can if you want to in America. And I've seen people, since I've been out of the service, run on people, young men and women, in uniform. And I was a scrap rod box for 7 years before I went in the Army. And I was Golden Gloves champion, Tri-State champion, national and stuff. But the thing is that I seen them do that. So I go up and I tell them, I said, those men, those young guys are in uniform. I said, they're here to serve you. I said, there's nothing they can do about that in reality. They would pay a price for, you know, doing anything. You can call them whatever you want to. But it doesn't make it right. And I said, the thing is, I'm not in uniform. And I said, I'm going to stand here and tell you, you're going to quit doing them that way. I said, you can make your choice right now. And to me, fighting was no more fun, you know, it wasn't fun anymore. I used to do it, enjoyed it, try to better yourself. But after that, you know, if you're going to fight, go for it. Get it, destroy it, walk away from it. You know, that's the way I felt. And, but, you know, the people, it just, you know, just got me, you know. Why are you doing that to the American soldiers? We done what we was told to do. We was under orders. You either follow orders or you get, you know, court-martialed. You know, I mean, it's that simple. A lot of people don't understand the military that well, but, you know, you don't have a lot of choices in reality when you get orders. You follow them. Of course, there's some we didn't follow because we knew they was wrong. So we'd, you know, take another alternative. But
Give me an example of that.
well, you get, and you probably heard about it, which I know nothing about it in the physical contents, but you have a young lieutenant that comes in. He's in charge. Now, he's in charge of these combat veterans that's been there for 6 months or whatever. They know what's going on. Them sergeants know what's going on. He comes in and he's wanting to do it his way because he's the boss. But his way is not going to work. It's going to get people killed. These guys know that. And some of those guys would persist in doing it their way. And some of those guys wound up dead on the battlefield. And it wasn't with AK-47s either. And speaking of that, going back to the night I was wounded, I was caught between our people and our enemy. As a matter of fact, I got this one here. This one they dug out of me. And this is an M16. It's not an AK-47. And anyway, they had that taped to my chest when I woke up.
Does that mean that was friendly fire?
A friendly fire
Yeah.
and hostile fire. I mean, I got
Right,
both.
you got both.
But, you know, and I don't, you know, they seen my flash and everything, you know, come alive, so they started shooting, and we were supposed to be in, but we wasn't.
They took that out of you, your leg,
Yeah,
or
my leg here.
leg?
It went through this one and broke it and broke this one, but
Wow.
it stopped there. And they dug it out, had it taped to my chest. Of course, whenever I woke up from surgery, the first one, I was in a full body cast, all the way down, you know, your chest to your toes. And then after, laid around there for, which I don't know, they kept you doped up pretty good. And I, you know, I wasn't used to drugs. I didn't do drugs, so, but I'd come in and out. And I would guess about a week and a half after the battle that I was hurt in, well, they sent me to Camp Zama in Japan. And while I was in Camp Zama, I couldn't, you know, get up, move around, but I could lean out, look down this breezeway, hallway type thing. They had like little wards, you know, with curtains on them. But it looked like it was a half a mile down there. I mean, it was a big building. I couldn't see back behind me, so I don't know how far it was that way. But, you know, you hear people, you know, and they're all wounded. And the guy right across the way from me, he had his leg gone from the left, his left leg from the knee down that I could see. And not counting the mental, you know, anguish and stuff he was going through. But I smoked back in them days, and I remember a corpsman come by and asked me if I wanted a cigarette, and I said, yeah. And so he lit it up, and said something, and then I went to take another puff, and my cigarette was gone. I thought, well, where'd that thing go to? And I looked down on that wool blanket. There was where a whole cigarette had hit and burnt completely down. Of course, the corpsman come by and found it, and he cleaned it up. But, you know, like I say, with those drugs, you know, that's the way it happened. You know, you're awake and alert for this minute, and just a second later, you know, you're gone. And they finally, you know, put me on a plane, sent me home. I went through California, stayed there one night, then they shipped me down to Fort Hood, Texas. And that was a wonderful hospital, that Darnell Army Hospital there, super good.
Good.
But I was from Oklahoma, you know, and so I put in for a compassionate transfer later on to get up to Fort Sill. But the thing is when you go in the country, they have you sign a paper and says if you're slightly wounded, do you want your next of kin notified? I put no, not, you know, slightly wounded. That's getting boogered up, you know, patched up and go back in. That's what I thought. Well, my folks didn't know where I was, you know, and I wasn't able to write because I too, you know, doped up all the time. And anyway, I finally got back down to Fort Hood, and so I wrote a letter and sent it home, let them know where I was, and everything was all right. And you know, and I really figured you know, the Army had contacted them, but they hadn't. And so my oldest brother, he loaded up Mom and Dad, and then my wife now, but it was my girlfriend. And they come down to Fort Hood, you know, and visited with me. And it was such a great thing, you know, see your family. Because I remember when I got on the plane to leave, I looked at my, you know, family and wondered if that would be the last time that I ever see them. Knowing where I was going and you know, what was going on, and I, you know, the thought went through my head. And but you go on, go do what you're supposed to do. And there's just so much, you know, that the internal part of it, you know, the mental part of it, the PTSD, you know, like I said, we didn't know what it was, you know, we had no earthly idea. But there's times as I got healed up and I got to where I could get around again and stuff, you know, and like I said, I was always quick, you know, was fast with my hands and stuff, and I'd be asleep and somebody come up, you know, and they touch me. Well, I'm already up, you know, and got them by the throat, you know, fixing a hammer on them. And, you know, just, you know, that stays with you for a long time. It does, you know. And
When did you start wearing the bullet around your neck?
Oh, I don't wear it as a rule, but I thought I might need it today. I normally wear it or have it hanging on my uniform, but I take it out on occasions and stuff.
You thought you might need it today just to show or and talk about, or does it bring you some?
Because it's an M16 instead of an AK-47.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of friendly fire that just like that when it happened. It wasn't supposed to. Nobody meant
Right.
to that I know of. I didn't know anybody in the squad that would like to get rid of me that bad, So, but
Hope not.
yeah, but it.
What do you think we should know about, or people today should know about the Vietnam War?
They need to search it out. There's a lot of untruths that has been out about the American soldier, the Vietnam soldiers, and I've seen American soldiers do things that's unbecoming of an American soldier. But I understood it, and most people will not understand that, because they can't. It's kind of like you trying to explain to me how giving birth to a child feels. How I'll ever know that, exactly what it feels like. I never will. And that's the way I feel about a lot of that stuff. There's some that will never get it. There's some that will get a basic idea, and they're compassionate enough in their heart and their mind that they will give it a chance to see what was really going on, not just what they was told by the news media or by your politicians. And like I said, the American soldiers in Vietnam, they fought like American soldiers, the majority of them. They did their job. They followed orders. And the blame was put on them for, we was baby killers. People get killed in wars. Civilians get killed. It's not because we wanted to kill them. We didn't want to do that at all, but we were soldiers. And that was our job. That's what we was trained to do, was destroy the enemy. Civilians always get hurt. That's not because we chose to do that, not because we wanted to. I remember one time we was making a sweep through a little village. The South Vietnamese, officers in the we call them Army of the Republic of Vietnam, and that's who we was helping. They can have munitions and stuff, but we was making this sweep, and there's no military people around. And it was me and my buddy, which we boot their doors in and go in their homes with automatic weapons, and there's women and children. It scares the crap plumb out of them, but you don't know if there's an enemy in there or not. You got to go in prepared. And of course, I couldn't speak Vietnamese, and this one gal, she couldn't speak English, but she was trying to talk to me, and we'd found munitions in there, and that's just an automatic no-no. They're not supposed to have them. Well, she took off and was running. That M16 came up blind on her. And that was my job. But the Lord said don't. Well, come to find out that her husband was an Army Ranger officer, and he had the right to have that stuff. But if I'd have shot and killed her, it would have been okay. I mean, it's understandable. But I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's just something that, that's in me, that I was raised with. And, we're not there, to fight with the women and children anyway.
Yeah.
But the BC, they're women and their kids. They send their kids up to you with a grenade strapped to them. You reach down to pick them up. The grenade's already, there. It's already been, ticked off some seconds. And it'll kill the kid most likely, or blow parts off of them. Get the soldier, but they're willing to sacrifice like that. And, the American soldier, as a rule, we don't do that. We don't do our children that way.
Right.
Or our families,
Right.
But with them, whatever it takes to win, that's what it is, And you see that. And it's all different. You're young. So, but I don't know, just too many incidents, in life, but then after you get out of Vietnam, you got all these other issues to deal with. And then you have physical problems due to your service connected. So now then you're still fighting with the government trying to get VA benefits, trying to get, help with that. And a lot of them guys, they commit suicide because they get tired of fighting the battle there too. They shouldn't have to fight them battles. They shouldn't. But we do every day. And that's where I'm so thankful for the Vietnam Veterans of America, the association, because we've got people lobbying in Congress every day for veterans' rights. And we started out with the Vietnam veterans.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see today, and it's because of a lot of the work that we've done, not just us, though other Purple Heart, DAV and stuff, but we was one of the stronger entities going in. It's when you see American soldiers come home today, how they're treated, and people thanking them for their service, and that's what it should be. And it's evolving into that now. How long will that last? I don't know. But it's here, and it's getting stronger right now. And I feel like the crew I worked with, was a major part of that.
Yeah.
Having our soldiers treated like, respectable people. Not like they're baby killers, not like they're, hostile, just running amok, and taking advantage of a situation, Like I said, there's some that do, but not that many of them compared to the whole.
Yeah.
But they was that way before they got to a combat zone. Most of them was. They use that, because they have the power, so they think. And it's just so sad. But,
Wow.
but like I say, whenever Dale was killed and Don wrote and told me about that, it was right before Christmas of '68. And anyway, I'd been in the hospital and I got home and my mail had caught up to me. And anyway, I read that though and just cried like a baby. I was 20 years old. But my oldest son, his name is Colombo Dale. And it's after Dale, which his name was Colombo Fields, Dale Torzo. But, them kind of people, you don't find them every day, everywhere.
Right.
He was a jewel.
Well, thank you for telling me about him and about your service.
You're welcome.
And
Yeah,
thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
Karen, may I ask one more question?
Yes.
And could you just respond to Karen, please, Myron?
Okay.
As part of this project, we're bringing in a replica of the Vietnam War Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. It will be displayed in Amarillo this December. What do you think about that? And can you talk to Karen?
Yeah, in that case, we've been to D.C. My wife and I, been to the wall, but we've also been to several places where they have the moving wall.
Mm-hmm.
We've been, they had it up in Peterson, they had it over in Shamrock, and they had it out in Louisiana one time. We was out visiting with a family out there, and they're very good. So many people are not able to go to D.C., and their families can go there, and they have all the information. And you can take the little etchings, off these walls as well, or the ones that I've seen anyway. And as a matter of fact, I'm glad, you brought that up because I didn't know Little Hank's name. And because the wall that come to Peterson, I found out what him and Cub's names was. And I tried for years to find where he was from and stuff before that, but I got up there to that moving wall and they had the information I needed. And found out he was from Louisville, Kentucky. And so I tried to contact, his last name was Kirshner, and I tried to contact Kirshner's up there, and I couldn't find anybody that was associated or relative of his. And then I was on, which I'm not real sharp on, like the computer and stuff, but we got on there, and there was one guy that responded back to it, and he said that he had a sister. Her name was Louise. And so I tried, and I didn't know if she was married and didn't know what name she was going by. But because of that wall, I found out what them boys' names was and where they're from. Where I just had a brief, time with them. Then their life was gone. So the walls, you know, for me, it's just been nothing but a good thing. And my children, they go to them, and they know all the guys that are on the wall that I served with are from our hometown. And it's a time, it's a good place to heal too.
Good.
Other veterans are there, you know, and you get to talking, and it's well, it's like this other time, if you don't mind me going on, but I'd went through basic and AIT with 3 guys that I seen that was assigned to the 25th Infantry Division, and I'd seen them in Vietnam and Cu Chi, and we'd run together, you know, whenever we was going through training. Well, then we all split up. Well, then I forget how many years later it was, we had a unit reunion down in San Antonio, and our doc, our medic, well, he hollered at me and he said, "Pete, come here." I said, "I want you to meet this guy." And he introduced me to this guy. His name was Arnold Chapa. And I said, "Chapa, that sounds familiar, you know, this, you know, a lot of years gone by now." But I said, "That sounds familiar." Well, come to find out, it was the same Chapa that I'd run with through basic and AIT and seen in Vietnam. He was in our unit, but he had got on the LARP program, which is Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol. So he wasn't, you know, like intermingling so much with our, you know, unit, because he was always out somewhere else gathering information. But I got to see him, you know, and I thought, how great is that, you know, that, you know that he made it. I'd seen one of the other guys too that they're in Fort Sill, and I was afraid that he wouldn't make it with his attitude. I'd always was concerned about him, but I'd seen him there at Fort Sill, and how great that was. He was in there with the SPD with a special processing detachment where, like, you come home from Vietnam, you get 2 weeks, you know, liberty. Well, he'd take a month and a half, you know, and so they'd go arrest him, bring him back. You know, it's not a big deal, you know, but they understood. But he was in that SPD, and I'd went over to get a uniform so I could process that, and I seen a head pop up in this group of people. You know, didn't think too much about it, but you know, it had got my attention. And pretty soon here this guy come, and it was Jerry Hunziker. And then we stayed in touch for a long time. Then I finally wrote, you know, hadn't heard from him, and so I wrote to his wife, and she said she didn't know where he was. That he left one day and never come back. And you know, and I know that's, you know, what got him was the PTSD and stuff. It just gets too many of them.
Yeah.
It does. But the walls, you know, with that question, like I said, I would encourage any veteran, whether, you know, you're a combat veteran or not, you know, to go to those, because they're well worth the honoring, you know, of our American soldiers, and especially the Vietnam veterans, you know.